Have you ever wondered if there's a science to making the perfect decision? Well, there is, and it's called game theory. It's kind of like the hidden rule book for life, explaining how we make choices when our success depends entirely on what other people do. But let me just start by asking you a question. When was the last time a choice you made, big or small, was completely tied to someone else's decision? You know, it happens way more often than we think, and that is exactly what game theory helps us unpack.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll figure out what a game even is in this world. Then we'll look at the different rules that can shape these situations. After that, we'll get to the really juicy part, finding the stable point. Then we'll dive into the most famous puzzle in all of game theory. And finally, we'll see how this stuff is literally everywhere in our lives.
Okay, first things first, the science of strategy. Before we get into the deep end, we've got to be on the same page about our most important term. So, what on earth do we actually mean by a game?
See, in game theory, a game isn't just about winning and losing. It's any situation that has three key ingredients. First, you need players. Those are the decision makers. Second, you need strategies, which are just the choices each player can make. And third, you need payoffs. That's the outcome for each player, and it all depends on how everyone's choices mix together.
Let's make this real with a super simple example. Picture two drivers pulling up to an intersection at the same time. Who are the players? The two drivers, of course. What are their strategies? Well, they can either stop or go. And the payoffs, they're pretty stark. Safety if they work it out, or an accident if they don't. See how the outcome for one driver is totally locked to the other driver's choice? That's a game. But of course, not all games are created equal. And that brings us to our next section, the rules of the game. If we really want to understand these situations, we have to know how to sort them into different categories. So first you have to ask, is the game competitive or cooperative? In a competitive or non-cooperative game, it's everyone for themselves. Think of two companies in a death match for customers. But in a cooperative game, players can actually make deals they have to stick to, like countries agreeing on production limits.
Next up, is it a zero-sum game? In a game like poker, my win is your loss. The amount of money on the table doesn't change. That's a fixed pie. But most of life is non-zero sum. The pie can actually get bigger or smaller for everyone. You know, like a great business partnership, where working together makes both partners way more successful.
And finally, there's timing. Is it a simultaneous game where everyone makes their move at once without knowing what the other person is doing? Think rock, paper, scissors. Or is it sequential, like chess, where you make a move, then I see it and I react to it?
Okay, now that we've got the basics down, we can get to the absolute core of game theory. Section 3, finding the stable point. And this is where we meet the incredible idea called the Nash equilibrium. This is a game changer, folks.
So what the heck is a Nash equilibrium? It's basically a point of balance. It's a situation where, after all the choices are made, no single player wishes they had done something different, given what everyone else did. It's the no regrets point.
Here's a simple way to think about it. Say you and a friend want to go out to eat. If you both pick the same restaurant and meet up, that's a Nash equilibrium. Why? Because if either of you had picked a different place, you'd be eating alone, which is worse. It's a stable outcome. But, and this is super important, stable doesn't always mean it's the best possible outcome for the group.
And that very idea that a stable outcome isn't always the best one leads us straight to the most famous puzzle in game theory, the prisoner's dilemma. It's a simple story, but it reveals something profound and honestly a little troubling about human strategy.
So here's the setup. The police arrest two partners in crime. They stick them in separate rooms so they can't talk to each other. And then they offer each prisoner the exact same deal. Their only choices are to confess and rat out their partner or stay silent and hope their partner does the same.
Okay, let's break down the payoffs here. Look at this chart with me. If both prisoners stay silent, they both get off easy, just 1 year in jail. If prisoner A confesses, but prisoner B stays silent, A walks free, and B gets hit with a massive 10-year sentence, and vice versa. But if they both confess and betray each other, they each get 5 years.
So seriously, put yourself in this situation. You're alone in that room. You can't trust your partner. You have no idea what they're going to do. What's your move? Do you stay loyal and keep quiet, or do you confess to save your own skin?
And this is the crazy part. The most logical, rational, self-interested choice for each individual prisoner is to confess.
Why? Just think it through from one prisoner's perspective. They're thinking, okay,
If my partner stays silent, my best move is to confess, because then I go free. But if my partner confesses, my best move is still to confess, because then I only get 5 years instead of 10. Since they're both thinking that way, they both confess. And there's the tragedy. They both end up with 5 years, when they could have just trusted each other and gotten only 1. It's the perfect example of how individual rational choices can lead to a terrible outcome for the group.
Now, the prisoner's dilemma isn't just some abstract puzzle. Its logic is playing out all around us, all the time. And that brings us to our last section. Game theory is everywhere.
In economics, think of 2 gas stations across the street from each other. They'd both make more money if they kept prices high, but each one is tempted to cut prices just a little to steal customers. That's a prisoner's dilemma. In politics, it's the logic of an arms race. 2 countries would be safer with no new weapons, but neither wants to risk being the only one without them.
And it goes even deeper. Biologists use it to explain animal behavior, from why bats share food to why animals fight over territory. And yeah, it's in your life too. When you're negotiating a salary, deciding whether to cut in line in traffic, or even navigating the complex strategies of modern dating.
So here's a great way to wrap your head around it all. Think of game theory as playing chess, but you're blindfolded. You have to guess what your opponent is going to do while they're guessing what you're going to do, and you're both just trying to find a strategy that works no matter what happens.
So, now you have the toolkit. You can see the invisible strategic games being played all around you, every single day. And that leaves me with one final question for you. Now that you know the rules, what games are you going to start seeing in your own life?